There comes a moment in your life when you realize that being good no longer protects you. It costs you your respect, consumes your time, and slowly strips away your identity. You feel change coming, and that's what scares you. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That moment when you're about to speak truth, but something stops you. When you know what's right, but choose the safe path instead. When you see the line you need to cross, but step back once again. Each time you retreat, a part of you dies. The part that knows your potential, understands the game, and is tired of pretending. Machiavelli didn't teach people to be evil. He taught them to abandon naivety. He saw the world without wishful thinking, understanding that power doesn't come to those who wait politely. It comes to those who understand the game and play unapologetically. This video is about crossing that line most people see, but never cross. It's about the version of you waiting on the other side, the one you think about in private. The one who doesn't bend, doesn't explain, just moves forward. You fear that person, and will explore why. Before diving deeper, I want you to write this confirmation in the comments. I choose myself first. First, your mind has already crossed that line. How many times have you won arguments that never happened, or replayed conversations where you said exactly what needed to be said? In how many situations have you mentally fixed everything, handled it well, but froze when the moment came? You practice strength constantly, creating scenarios where you're direct, clear, and firm, where you set boundaries others respect, where you move with certainty, not doubt. But when reality hits, you hesitate. You imagine saying no, but say maybe. You think about walking away, but talk yourself out of it. You picture standing your ground, but compromise. Fear lives in the gap between rehearsal and action. I knew Machiavelli. Power without action is nothing. Strategy without execution is just fantasy. Here's what's happening. Your mind has already crossed the line. Mentally, you've become that person. You know how it looks and feels. You've practiced it 1,000 times, but don't make it real, because when you step into that energy, people will notice. Some will adapt, others will resist. Right now, you exist in both worlds, safe in actions while feeling mentally strong. You get satisfaction without real results, but that's not power. It's preparation without delivery. Your mind is ahead of your body. Your thoughts have advanced, but you haven't shown anyone. Each time you rehearse mentally but take weak action, you reinforce a pattern. You tell yourself you're not ready, maybe tomorrow, but the gap isn't large. It just seems that way. The moment you take action matching your mental strength, everything changes. Rehearsal becomes reality. Stop waiting to feel prepared. You never will completely. Take the step, and preparation follows naturally. Remember, your silence only serves others. Some people in your life want you to stay as you are, not out of love, but because your current form serves their purpose. They exploit your predictable nature, habit of compromise, putting yourself last and staying silent when you should speak up. They're not plotting against you, but unknowingly they've built their comfort on your sacrifice. Machiavelli observed this pattern everywhere. He saw power structures function by placing certain people in specific positions, and when someone breaks this pattern, the entire system collapses. Your life works similarly. The person who contacts you only when needed benefits from your constant availability. The one who makes decisions for you benefits when you don't trust those who dismiss your ideas. They benefit when you doubt yourself. When you start to change, all equations shift. Those comfortable in the old system feel threatened by the new. Your growth disrupts their balance, not because of what you're doing, but because your change forces them to change too. Most people resist change. This is where many stop. They feel opposition and think they're wrong or selfish. But Machiavelli would say, you're not afraid of change. You fear conflict, resistance, and accusations. This fear is real. Conflict is uncomfortable, and being misunderstood hurts. But avoiding that pain means putting others' comfort above your life. Each time you shrink away for peace, you lose part of yourself. Growth has a price. Old patterns, relationships that existed when you were less, support from those who liked you because you never challenged them. What you gain is your authentic self that waited beneath compromises. If fear of others' reactions stops you from stepping into your power, remember, their discomfort isn't your responsibility. Their adjustment is their job. Your growth is yours. Now, I want you to write in the comments, my development matters most. Number 3, one step changes everything. You can study power, read about it, think and understand every theory, but power doesn't exist until it's visible. Machiavelli knew this perfectly. He wrote about action, not theory. Steps people could see, because if people don't see your power, it simply doesn't exist. This applies to you too. You may be clear inside, know your worth, understand your limits, but if you never show it, nothing changes. This is where most people get stuck. They build inner courage and do mental work, but when the moment arrives, they freeze. They say, not the right time, and think, what's one more day of preparation? Months pass, nothing changes. Real power begins with one visible step, not a complete transformation or 10 steps, just one. A boundary you clearly state, a moment when you don't back down, walking away without explanation, choosing yourself in front of others. That's the step, and when you take it, everything changes. Visibility locks in identity. When people see you acting differently, you can't deny it, undo it, or go back to being silent. You've shown them who you're becoming and, more importantly, shown yourself. That's why hesitation feels safe. Until you step up, you can still retreat. But when you publicly step into your power, there's no return. The message is sent, and that's frightening because it means commitment. It means no more half measures. Yet it's liberating too, because your fear wasn't about the action itself, but the uncertainty of whether you'd actually do it. Once you take action, uncertainty vanishes. The first step is always hardest. Your heart will race, your mind will scream warnings, every instinct will push you toward safety, but you must move forward. Because that first step is the toughest, the second becomes easier. By the third or fourth, it feels natural. You realize the person you feared isn't dangerous. They're just humans who value themselves. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Take that step, then you become ready. You set the boundaries. Then we learn to maintain it. You walk away. Then we learn to stand alone. You speak. Then we learn to handle reactions. Machiavelli said it's better to take action and risk failure than ensure mediocrity by doing nothing. So what's your next step? What's that one thing you're avoiding? Because that will reveal your transformation. Do it. Do it today. Do it afraid, but do it. Fourth, persistence is not violence. This is where many people stop. They think of it as being cold to become more confident, straightforward, and powerful. They think that strength is to be weak, to be cruel, and not cruel. I will be clear, this is a wrong choice. Machiavelli had a reputation. People called him ruthless. They used to say that he taught deceit, but what people miss is this. Machiavelli was not teaching cruelty, he was teaching control. He was teaching how to keep emotions separate from decision-making, how to act according to the need, not just on the basis of what feels comfortable. This is not cruelty. It's clarity. You can be kind and have boundaries. You can care deeply and still say no. You can respect someone and still walk away. If they're tiring you out, strength isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about not letting emotions dominate your decisions. Think of it this way: someone constantly transgresses your boundaries. They take your time for granted. They ignore your needs. If you run into emotions, you will either explode or swallow everything and get bitterness. In both cases, emotions are in control, but if you are strong, you resolve the issue calmly. You set boundaries. You make the decision that is right for you. It is not cruelty, it is power. And this is where the confusion starts. When you stop people from taking advantage, they will call you cold. When you stop explaining yourself, they say you've changed. When you start choosing yourself, people will accuse you of being selfish. But it's their discomfort speaking, not the truth. You were taught wrong. You were taught that being assertive means being illiberal. Keeping standards means being tough. But it's lies that are created to keep you in check. Real strength, knowing the difference between being tough and clear, between being mean and honest. Machiavelli said that the leader should be both cute and scary, and fear is more trustworthy if you have to choose. But people take it as an endorsement of tyranny. He's saying that the desire to be liked doesn't make you weak. You can be respected without being cruel, and here's that important change. Not everyone deserves access to you, your time, your energy, your attention, the mental space. It's all going to become what you don't even recognize, but it doesn't. What actually happens is that you become more truthful. When you don't constantly bend over to make everyone happy, then you can really be yourself. Strength and kindness are not opposed to each other. They are companions. You can be warm and still have boundaries. You can be generous and still protect your peace. So stop thinking of strength as cruelty. It is not. It means using your heart wisely, giving them what they deserve. Machiavelli valued control because he knew that people who are only driven by emotions are doomed. You are not running a state, but you are running your own life. And if you allow guilt, fear, and the desire to please people to dominate every decision, you will lose. Take thoughtful steps. Be clear, be kind when you need it, and be firm when you need it. It's not cruelty. It's intelligence. Write this affirmation in the comments: my strength is my defender of peace. Fifth, comfort dies when you rise up. This part is uncomfortable but necessary. When you step into your power, you'll lose something. Not everything, just certain things. You'll lose that form of affection that existed only when you were small. Some people care for you, but they want a version of you that doesn't challenge them, who compromises, who remains predictable. When you shed that form, their love changes. Sometimes it vanishes, which is confusing because you did nothing wrong. You simply grew up and started valuing yourself. But they find this dangerous because the relationship depended on you staying in a certain role, and now you're breaking free. Machiavelli observed this pattern repeatedly. He saw people lose companions once they gained power, not from cruelty, but from ceasing to pretend. This happens in your life too, not dramatically, but quietly. The person who felt important when you constantly needed them loses their role when you become self-sufficient. The person who felt superior when you doubted yourself loses their position when you trust your own judgment. When they lose this status, they withdraw. This is what Machiavelli discussed. You cannot gain power without sacrificing comfort and the approval of those who preferred you to remain small. Now comes the painful part. You'll miss it even knowing it wasn't healthy. You'll miss the familiarity and easy connection and sometimes wonder if it was all worth it. But understand this: affection that encourages you to stay small isn't true support. True support adapts itself, celebrates your progress, handles change without punishing you for it. If someone only loved you when you were easily controlled, that wasn't real care, but convenience. And losing convenience hurts, but it's not like losing something genuine. Machiavelli accepted this cost from the beginning. He knew gaining power meant leaving certain comforts behind, yet he proceeded, not because he devalued relationships, but because he valued truth more. This is your choice. Keep that form of affection where you must remain unchanged, or step into your power and see what remains, who changes, who stays. Yes, some people will leave. That's true, and it'll hurt, but the ones who stay are the real relationships, and are stronger because they're based on who you really are. New people entering your life will meet the authentic you from the start. No masks, no pretense. That's the change. You lose superficial love, but gain true respect. This transition is difficult. Between losing the old and finding the new is an empty space where you feel alone, but it doesn't last forever. On the other side, you find something better. People who appreciate your strength, not just flexibility, who respect your boundaries. You rediscover yourself, the version that was suppressed while trying to please others. So yes, you'll lose a form of love and feel pain, but what you gain is worth it. Write this affirmation in the comments. True support celebrates growth. Number 6, silence becomes your filter. Real power doesn't announce itself or need to prove anything. It simply exists. The clearest sign you're becoming powerful is when you stop reacting to everything and start choosing where to invest your energy. Most people live reactively. Something happens, they respond immediately. Someone speaks, they defend. A situation arises, they get entangled. It happens automatically. We're primed to react and respond. But powerful people operate differently. They pause, observe, and decide if something deserves their energy. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He observed leaders who challenged every criticism, rumor, and challenge. Someone criticizes you, says something to provoke you. In the past, you'd immediately react, defend yourself, try to prove them wrong. But the stronger you pause, you ask yourself, does this person's opinion really matter? Is it worth my energy? And most of the time, the answer is no. So you don't respond, not out of fear, not because you can't, but because you choose not to. That silence is power. It's the same power. When you don't react, you stay in control. You don't hand your peace to anyone else. You observe, you assess, you choose. This applies not just to criticism, but to everything. Situations you don't want to be part of. Conversations that aren't worth your time. Drama that has nothing to do with you. You start filtering. You start asking, does this align with who I'm becoming? Does this add value, or is it just noise? And when it's noise, you let it go. You don't engage, don't explain, just move forward. Machiavelli said powerful people combine the lion's strength with the fox's cunning. They have the ability to fight when needed and the wisdom to stay silent when not. When you start living this way, people notice. They see you're not easily provoked anymore, that you don't get caught in every argument. Some will respect this, but others will test you harder. They'll push your buttons to see if you'll break. And that's when you truly prove yourself. Because staying calm when someone's deliberately provoking you, that's next level power. You don't explain, don't justify, just maintain your position and let them exhaust themselves. Eventually they stop because they get nothing from it. That's when you know you've truly changed, when you're not controlled by external triggers, when your energy is yours to give, not theirs to take. This doesn't mean you become emotionless. This doesn't mean you disconnect from life. It means you stop connecting with what doesn't matter. It means saving your energy for what truly counts. You connect deeply with people and situations that deserve it and let everything else fade into the background. That's the filter. And once you adopt it, your life becomes calmer. Not because less is happening, but because you're no longer focused on the noise. You act selectively, thoughtfully, and intentionally. And that's what real power looks like. Commitment eliminates fear. We're at the final part, and this is the most important. Everything we discussed, mental exercises, opposing others, false displays, the illusion of strength and cruelty, conditional love's damage, selective connection, it all comes down to one thing: decision. The decision to become the person you're afraid to be. Because here's the truth: fear only lives in indecision. As long as you're half in and half out, as long as you're thinking but not committed, fear will keep growing. It will whisper in your ear daily. It will show you the worst outcomes. It will remind you what you could lose. It will keep you trapped in that gap. The gap between who you are and who you could become. And that gap, that's where anxiety lives. That's where self-doubt thrives, because you're not fully either person. Risk doesn't disappear, but uncertainty does. You stop wondering if you'll do this. You've made a commitment, and once you fully commit, something changes within you. You stop fighting yourself, stop wavering back and forth, and become calm, clear, and focused. Because you're no longer divided, you're whole. People misunderstand fear. They think fear is about outcomes, about what change might bring. But fear isn't about outcomes, it's about decision. It's about that moment when you stop thinking and commit, when you stop testing the waters and just move forward. Yes, that moment is intense because it's final, but it's also liberating. Once you decide, you don't have to decide repeatedly. You've made your choice. Now, just execute. Machiavelli said, "It's better to act bravely and lose than to think timidly." Even without success, you'll know. You'll have answers. But stuck in indecision, you'll never know. You'll just keep thinking, and those thoughts will haunt you. So here's what to do. Stop halfway, end the testing, commit fully. Decide to become the person you feared and act accordingly. Set boundaries, take steps, move forward, speak up, choose yourself. Do it once, do it completely, don't look back. When you do this, fear loses power, uncertainty vanishes, and the person you feared becoming is simply you. Living as this person, you'll discover it wasn't so frightening. The consequences weren't as severe as imagined. This is the final link: commitment. Everything depends on it, yet without it, nothing matters. You must decide and commit completely. Half measures create anxiety, full commitment brings peace. So what will you do? Will you stay on the sidelines wondering what could happen? Or will you cross that line, fully commit and find out? Write in the comments, "I am now fully committed." You're afraid because becoming that means no more compromises. No second chances for undeserving things, no more explaining to those who won't listen. No more shrinking for others' convenience. The person you fear becoming is the one who chooses themselves. Once you do that, there's no going back. You can't return to the version that stayed silent. You can't go back to that life where everyone came before you. That door closes, as it should, because on the other side is the version of you that was waiting. The one who doesn't apologize for existing, who walks with intention rather than fear, who understands real power isn't in controlling others, but in refusing to be controlled. Machiavelli didn't write about evil, he wrote about reality, about seeing the world as it is. And the reality is, you're playing small because it feels safe, but it's no longer protecting you, it's limiting you. Deep down, you know this. That's why you're here, why this touches you, why the fear feels so real. Because you're so close, right on the edge, just one step away. So take that step. Become the person you fear becoming, not because they're perfect or all-knowing, but because they choose themselves, and that choice changes everything. If this video affects you, hit like now, share it with someone who needs this message, and subscribe to the channel because we're just beginning these truthful conversations. Write your resolution in the comments. Tell us what touched you most. You can do this. Now go prove it.